Okay, so today I want to take a look at the Flynn case because it's been getting a lot of attention in the news. It's kind of being overshadowed right now and it's soon to be forgotten about, but it's an important part of our history that we need to recognize what actually occurred, because there's been a lot of stuff put out recently that make it seem like maybe Flynn got a raw deal, maybe he didn't have it coming. No. The bottom line is the man is guilty and he deserves to be punished for those crimes. Okay, all this stuff that's being put out there to kind of cloud the issue, it's nonsense. So let's take a review at exactly what's going on with this, right? So basically what happened is in 2016, Russia started interfering with our election process, which is bad, right? Hopefully we all can come to an agreement that that's not something that we should be doing. So then in late 2016, Obama imposed sanctions on Russia to let it be known, hey, this kind of thing is not appropriate. We don't want this going on, right? And you can see this is already a political issue, because what happens when the Russians interfere, who benefited? It's not like everyone benefited. The Republicans benefited. So you can kind of see where this is going. The Republicans aren't going to want to fight it so much because it benefits them. It works out to their advantage, and we've seen this all along. They do not want this gravy train to stop because they're hoping that each time the Russians will come to save them. Okay, so in late 2016, Obama imposed sanctions to make it clear the United States doesn't want this. We don't want you interfering. Stay out of it. This isn't okay. All right. So then what happens is Flynn makes a call to Sergei Kislyak, who is basically, powerful Russian on the other side, who has Putin's ear, and, he can make big decisions. He's a major player over there. Flynn and Sergei Kislyak have a conversation. Now, this in and of itself is not illegal, right? People are allowed to have conversations. What's not allowed is what's called the Logan Act. So the Logan Act states that you are not allowed to act in a diplomatic manner with other countries, basically representing the United States or setting up deals of how our foreign policy is going to interact with other countries. You're not supposed to do that. And there's numerous reasons why this is a bad idea. Basically, if we have the actual government trying to conduct foreign policy, and then we have powerful interests in this country, whether it be powerful people, billionaires, super PACs, whoever, going out and trying to interfere in that process, then it means our government can't conduct its business in a reasonable manner. It can't actually get anything done because it's being undermined all along the way. And in our history, we have seen major examples of how bad this can be, right? Although it's not something that is really prosecuted very much, it's a really important law we have on the books. And this sounds like conspiracy, but you can look it up. This is absolutely true, where Nixon at one point actually violated the Logan Act by going around when there was almost a deal in place to wind down Vietnam. Nixon recognized that it was better for his election if Vietnam was still going. So they used a backdoor to go in and basically crash the deals that were about to bring the Vietnam War to a close and extend it. And sure enough, Nixon ended up getting elected. So, and really, I know it sounds conspiracy theory. Look this up. This is all legitimate. Okay, so what happens is people died to extend a war so that Nixon could get elected. All right, that's an example of the Logan Act. Okay, this isn't quite as bad, right? We didn't have an additional thousands of people dying because of this conversation, but it still is undermining our government. So what happened was when Flynn and Kislyak had this conversation, the FBI was already investigating because the FBI already knew that Russia was involved with the Trump campaign, whether directly or indirectly, and then we can go down the whole rabbit hole of the Mueller report, but this is where we're at, right? The FBI knew something was up, so they started looking into Flynn. When Flynn was asked about this phone call with Kislyak, he stated sanctions were not discussed, thereby meaning that he didn't violate the Logan Act, right? So that was his stance. No, we didn't talk about sanctions. We didn't get into any of that. That would violate the Logan Act. We didn't do that at all. Turns out they did. So the transcripts have now been released, which make it absolutely clear that basically what's happening is that Flynn was conducting foreign policy, but Trump wasn't in office yet. This is a violation of the Logan Act, and it's not just a violation of the letter of the law. This is legitimately trying to undermine the sanctions that Obama put in place so that we could have elections without other countries interfering in those elections. So let's take a look at exactly what was said in the phone call. So the call summaries show Flynn telling Kislyak not to allow, right, he's referencing the Obama administration, not to allow administration to box us in right now, and asking that Russia only take reciprocal actions in response to sanctions for election interference. Okay, he goes on to say, the idea is, if you have to do something on a reciprocal basis, meaning, on a sort of an even basis, Flynn said later in the call, then that is a good message, and we'll understand that message, and then that we're not going to escalate this thing. So what's going on is he's saying, look, I realize that the Obama administration is taking some serious steps that Russia isn't going to like. But what we want you to do is you have to respond to this. Russia can't do nothing. But we want you to respond in a very small way, because if you respond in a big way, it's going to look very bad if we don't step things up, right? If we just keep escalating, Russia escalates, the U.S. escalates, Russia escalates, the U.S. escalates. And Flynn is saying, we don't want to do that. We want to make everything nice once we get into office. This is literally the definition of the Logan Act. And again, it's not like a trivial thing where it's a no big deal. Oh, you violated the law, but it doesn't really matter. This is a big deal. He's literally undermining foreign sanctions on a country that interfered in our elections. Those sanctions need to be respected, and Flynn wasn't doing that. So this whole idea coming out now that Flynn got a raw deal and he really didn't commit any crimes. Flynn committed crimes. Flynn should pay for those crimes. And in this country, we have a situation where if basically people investigating you have to follow the letter of the law. So if police illegally search your home and then find things that show you're guilty, they don't get to use that stuff in the court of law because it's a legal search and seizure. So some people are trying to make it like the original investigation was illegal and that it shouldn't have taken place. That's not what happened here, right? Everything going up to things are basically legally sound. Okay, now, yeah, it may look bad that certain FBI investigators, may have said things that look poorly, but if you look at it from a legal standpoint, it's all out there. So this idea that Flynn should be a free man, that Flynn didn't really commit crimes, it's nonsense, okay? And the disappointing thing about this is when you realize what we have is basically a bunch of corrupt people forgiving each other because they're all part of the same game. Right? We weren't able to prove collusion, but that's because a real investigation was never allowed to take place. But what we're seeing here is exactly what you would see if collusion was taking place. Basically, a crime is committed, and then all these people are trying to help each other out to make sure that the whole thing doesn't come out and become public, right? Covering their tracks, trying to make sure that the worst part of things don't come out. And that's what we're seeing here. And that's the problem. It's another step in the continued denigration of our democracy. All right. And this is why Flynn deserves to be behind bars. By all legality, he should be behind bars. The DOJ should not have dropped these. The man admitted that he lied, right? He admitted, he said that he didn't talk about sanctions. He did, and it's a big deal that he did. Thanks for checking out the video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can check out all the new videos as they become available in the future. And thanks. We'll see you later.